Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 3, Episode 2 Ending Explained, an original series Space God returns. Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 3 continues to prove that it understands how to balance nostalgia with new storytelling. After a thrilling premiere that saw Captain Pike and the Enterprise crew strike back at the Gorn, Episode 2 shifts gears entirely, diving into the strange, the metaphysical, and the profoundly Star Trek idea of what it means to confront godlike beings in space. By its end, it becomes clear that Strange New Worlds isn't afraid to dip into one of the original series' most iconic story wells, the return of a so-called space god. And this isn't just a casual nod. The episode resurrects one of the strangest, most controversial figures from Star Trek, the original series, Apollo, the Greek god-like being from the 1967 episode Who Mourns for Adonai? But in true Strange New Worlds fashion, the return of Apollo isn't just fan service, it's a re-examination of humanity's old myths through the eyes of a new generation of explorers. A mysterious signal and a dead world. The episode, titled The Temple at the Edge of Forever, begins with the Enterprise responding to a faint but oddly familiar subspace signal emanating from a dying planet at the edge of Federation space. The world, designated Pollux IX, the same planet where Captain Kirk's Enterprise once encountered Apollo, has gone cold and silent since that fateful mission a century ago. Pike's away team, including Spock, Lon, and Dr. M'Benga, beams down to investigate. The once lush landscape is now barren, littered with the ruins of massive marble columns that seem to flicker between reality and illusion. The tricorders register impossible energy readings, and then, in a moment that mirrors the original series' sense of awe and dread, the sky splits open in a storm of golden light. And there he is, Apollo. The return of Apollo, but not as he was. The Strange New Worlds version of Apollo played this time by Charles Majeur, stepping into the sandals of Michael Forrest's iconic role, isn't the smug, demanding deity from the 23rd century. He's older, dimmer, and haunted. His once imposing figure now seems weary, his voice tinged with regret. Apollo recognizes Spock immediately, or rather, Spock's lineage. "Your captain's eyes," he says, gazing into Spock's face. "I saw them before in a man who would not kneel." It's a chilling moment, suggesting that Apollo's memory of Kirk's defiance has lingered for 100 years. But something is deeply wrong. Apollo reveals that after his death at Kirk's hands, he did not die, not exactly. His consciousness was scattered across subspace, tied to the last remnants of his worshippers' belief. Now, as humanity's myths fade entirely from memory, his essence is unraveling. He has summoned the Enterprise not for vengeance, but for salvation. The ethical dilemma: can a god be saved? Pike and Spock debate the ethics of Apollo's plea. On one hand, he's a being of immense power who once enslaved a Starfleet crew. On the other, he's a sentient entity facing oblivion. Dr. M'Benga notes that his energy signature resembles a decaying subspace construct, a form of life unlike any known species. This sets up one of the episode's most quintessential Star Trek moral dilemmas. Should humanity help preserve a god who once demanded worship, or allow nature or history to take its course? Number 1 Una Chin Riley provides the pragmatic counterpoint. If his existence depends on belief, then he was never a god, just a mirror of our need for one. But Nyota Uhura, ever the empathic linguist, offers a different view. Maybe that's what all myths were, she says. Reflections. The way we taught ourselves to reach higher. The episode's middle act unfolds as a debate not just between characters, but between eras, the rational federation of the 23rd century versus the imaginative, myth-loving humanity of the past. A dying pantheon. As the crew tries to stabilize Apollo's energy form within a containment field, they discover something unexpected. He's not alone. Other faint energy signatures are detected within Pollux IX's decaying ruins, echoes of other gods from ancient Earth mythology. Artemis, Hermes, Athena. They're not alive in any physical sense, but fragments of their quantum patterns persist, trapped within a decaying subspace lattice that once gave them form. Apollo reveals that their species were once explorers from a higher dimensional realm who came to Earth millennia ago. When humans worshipped them, that belief gave them form and power in this dimension. But as belief waned, so too did their stability. It's a revelation that reframes the entire space god concept of the original series. These beings weren't divine, they were sustained by the psychic energy of collective belief, a kind of ancient symbiosis between humans and their myths. Spock's logical leap. In a classic Spock moment, he realizes that Apollo's subspace decay mirrors a dying star collapsing into a quantum singularity. In other words, Apollo's essence could be preserved, but only if the Enterprise channels the energy into a stable subspace pocket. Doing so, however, could risk trapping the ship's warp core in a feedback loop. Pike, in his characteristic mixture of boldness and compassion, decides to take the risk. "We're not gods," he says, "but we can still choose to show mercy." As the Enterprise diverts power into the containment field, the ship shudders. Temporal distortions ripple through the bridge. Crew members momentarily see visions of ancient Greece, of temples and worshippers bowing to golden light. Uhura hears music from a lyre echoing through the comms. Ortegas jokes nervously, "Please tell me we didn't just go full mythology mode." It's one of the most visually stunning sequences in the show's history, a fusion of classic TOS camp and modern cinematic awe. The price of immortality. The rescue partially succeeds. Apollo's energy stabilizes, but he's horrified to realize that he's now alone. The other remnants of his pantheon collapse into nothingness, their patterns fading beyond recovery. It seems, Spock observes quietly, that even gods may not escape entropy. In a heartbreaking moment, Apollo kneels before Pike. "They are gone," he says, "and without them I am only a man who outlived his time." Pike offers him a choice: join the Federation as a unique life form to be studied and perhaps understood, or allow his essence to dissolve peacefully, joining his kin in whatever awaits beyond subspace. Apollo smiles faintly. "I think I would rather believe in your kind now. You built temples among the stars." And with that, he steps into the light, his form dispersing into a cascade of photons that shimmer like constellations before vanishing. The ending's hidden meaning. The episode ends quietly. On the bridge, Uhura listens to the final fragment of the subspace signal, Apollo's voice, fading, whispering, "Remember us." Pike looks out at the stars and muses. Maybe that's what immortality really is, being remembered. The screen cuts to black on the faint echo of a lyre's final note. How the ending ties back to the original series. This ending serves as a spiritual sequel to Who Mourns for Adonai, but instead of mocking the idea of gods, it reframes them as tragic, almost human figures. Where Kirk's generation confronted gods with defiance, Pike's generation meets them with empathy. It's a subtle but powerful shift in Star Trek's philosophy. The original show often portrayed false gods as tyrants to be toppled, reflections of 1960s skepticism toward blind faith. But Strange New Worlds adds a new dimension, compassion for what those myths meant to humanity. By allowing Apollo to die with dignity rather than defeat, the episode closes a thematic loop that began nearly 60 years ago. It's less about destroying gods and more about understanding why humans created them, and how exploration itself has become our new form of reverence. A return to Star Trek's core themes, Season 3's first 2 episodes now make a striking 1-2 punch. Episode 1 was about confronting an external monster, the Gorn, through courage and unity. Episode 2 is about confronting an internal one, our need to find meaning